Welcome to the Build Different podcast with Sam Weiss and me, David Weiss, his brother. Today was a amazing week for humanoid robots. Sam has a background in electrical engineering, robotics, aviation, drones, the whole gamut. I'm just a lowly software engineer.
You're being generous. All right.
So we're gonna go through some of the cool things that got announced and just talk about them, respond to them, what we're thinking. I literally asked my wife. I said this morning while we were getting ready. I said, "Honey, you need to prepare yourself for the day when we buy a humanoid robot." And she said, "I don't know about that. It's pretty scary. Do you remember iRobot?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I still want one.
Ashley's very much opposed. And I'm like, I mean, by the time we can afford one, she'll soften up to it. There are some substantial security risks, physical and privacy, with having these things in homes. And anyways, I just think I think that my wife was. I'm like techie, like I want to see what it can do, like I want one, and I was like, don't you want it to do your laundry? Like, look, let me show you the video. It's doing your laundry, and she like softened up a little bit. In fact, it was funny. We were watching the launch video for Figure, and it was doing some things, and then she was like, maybe if it does the laundry, and I was like, just wait.
Deformable object manipulation. It's laundry.
That's right. Anyways.
Okay, so let's go through. The first post was by Brett Adcock, and he posted on X. I forget. Well, it's the 7th, so I guess it was last week.
Yeah.
Anyway, a couple things that stood out about this like trailer for Figure 3. I guess the first thing that stood out to me was I never thought about these things wearing clothes, like that you would dress them. I thought they would just come in whatever they came in. Maybe I was influenced by, but that was like a realization. I'm like, oh yeah, people are going to customize these. I didn't even realize that. The second thing that stood out to me was the thing in the hand, the hand having its camera.
The camera,
so it could reach in a like cupboard or something and still see. Whereas what humans kind of do is they kind of like feel things out or whatever, guess, or I don't know exactly how, but I thought that was interesting. What stood out to you in this one? What was the?
I mean, I noticed both of those things and have thoughts on those. That honestly, it was the toes. The toes are gorgeous. Yeah, the toes are impressive, and it's interesting that they have them. And you think your toes are like, and the shoe here. Anyways, the foot. I think it was interesting that they put toes on there. It looks like it's a single toe. It's not multiple. The camera placements was interesting to me. It'll be interesting to see. So you know how Elon Musk, when it comes to autonomous vehicles, there's this big thing in the industry between Elon's approach, which is cameras only, and everybody else's approach, which is like, we're going to put cameras plus radar, plus radar, plus LiDAR, right? And so this is interesting because they're putting a camera on the hand, a place that humans don't have cameras, and they're going to use that data to improve its performance, supposedly. I don't think Optimus currently has a camera in the hand. It'll be interesting to see if, Tesla sticks to this. We're going to build this thing. A human can do it with two cameras in the head. We're just going to stick with that. Or if they're going to put a camera in the hand, I could see that being pretty useful.
It looks to be there's a camera on the chin and the back of the head.
That was another thing that stood out to me, is I didn't see stereo. You really want stereo vision, and I don't know what's behind that visor. I know they've got a display in there, but I don't know if there's a LiDAR in the head or if there is a few more cameras that give it stereo. I was surprised to not see stereo cameras on the front.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So, and then the clothes were interesting. It didn't really surprise me, but I guess it's like, yeah, that makes sense that people are going to dress these up, according to their roles and where they're
What
at. And
when I read the instructions, I mean the like announcement page, the landing
yeah,
page, they talked about the clothes being durable for like lots of manipulation, washable, that's important, but also the main kind of like feature was that they would protect the humans from getting their fingers pinched and things.
yes.
I thought
Okay, let's talk about pinching. I did notice
that
the elbow. So,
yes.
and these joints are gorgeous. They're just really pretty. This is Optimus.
It's
And
gonna
somebody
crush your
posted this and was like, man, if you get your
finger.
finger in there, it's goner. It's just going to chop right off. And it's true. Like this is, and we're early iterations here, but like the Optimus elbow looks terrifying. And, it's like, yeah, you would want a jacket on this because you don't want like your kid's fingers getting hammered in there. Um, I did think in
Well,
general, the joints on figure are
really
just really
powerful.
pretty, and the skin material they're using and all these things. The shoulder is very impressive. We can pull it up in another video, but the way they've wrapped the fabric around the shoulder is really really impressive too.
It's it these gears. So every one of these joints has has a I think it's a cycloidal gearbox inside, right? Is that true? Am I getting that? We don't know, I guess technically.
We don't know. Like cycloidal drives and harmonic drives are the two. They kind of drive servos or actuators that would often be used.
What's the one where you rotate it around and it kind of like moves one gear every pass? Is that cycloidal or is
Pretty sure
that
that's
harmonic?
cycloidal versus the harmonic is
Cycloidal.
like there's a hoop that's like oblong and you rotate this oblong hoop through a thing.
Do you know what well, anyway, the purpose of those that gearing, as I understand it, is that they're high torque with a high speed motor driving it. So you have like a tiny engine that just goes and but it moves the thing slowly but lots of torque. Is that true? Am I getting that right? Is that
I think
how it is?
likely these drive systems. I think that's correct. I think that's correct. It gears it down a lot, but I think one of the other big benefits is there's almost zero backlash. So
Oh,
if
there's
the
no
motor's not,
slop.
that's right. If the motor's not moving, there's not a lot of movement in the arm. Or
Mm.
if it stops and starts, there's just very 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 little backlash in these drives. And yes, I think they're very compact.
Anyway, I high high we talk about the fingertips in a second, but like that's where the pinching becomes an issue for me because if you've got a high torque system and it just slowly crunch. What do you think about these fingertips?
I'm interested to. I wonder what's like. There's some sort of pressure sensitive something going in there. Um, yeah, I think feedback on the actuator or the the end effector they call it is super important to manipulate soft objects and things like this to be safe around humans. I find it fascinating that this robot has so many lights on it, and I noticed the lights in the fingertips. Have you noticed the lights all over this robot?
No, I didn't. I just thought that was just like I don't know, reflective material. I don't know some.
No. So this is, let's see
Okay,
here.
obviously there's a screen on the face.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of lights on this robot, and one of the places there are lights is on each fingertip, and I think that is
For
interesting.
also to light up in a dark cabinet that you're going to pull something, right? Because I think isn't the thesis, the core thesis here is that for AI to get good, it needs like way more data, and so you get lots of data by using the robot. The robot generates enormous amounts of data that allows you to build a world model, and that world model, whoever gets the most data kind of wins is like that part of the idea. And so the reason they're optimizing for the home is because it's a target-rich environment for world how the world works data. Is that the theory? Am I getting that right, or am I like just totally
That's an interesting.
bashing that?
I'm not sure. I I think it's interesting that they're targeting the home right now. The CEO of Figma, like 6 months ago, or maybe a year, Figure, thank you, a Figure,
Mm-hmm.
did make some tweet about how they were going to accelerate to delivering the home sooner, and I think that's interesting. All of the it is the most complex environment, the home, compared
Agreed.
to
Yeah, than
like
anything else.
industrial settings, and
Yeah,
so
everything's structured
um
elsewhere.
right, it's the least structured environment, and therefore most complex. So I'm not sure, maybe they're just trying to get to the economy of scales, or the economy of scale, and just get, there's like, obviously consumer base is massive compared to industrial, um maybe they're trying to like get the data, because yes, that's where you're going to get the generalized data to if you can work in the home, you're going to be able to function anywhere. um yeah, I think it's interesting that the targeting. He gave an interview after, and mentioned that he was basically like, "Look, we've got some really impressive things happening, really great demos, and we have a ton of safety concerns." He's like, "We have so much safety to work through on this thing before it's going to go to any home, and everything from physical safety to like it falling over on some kid, or pet, to privacy and data security." And anyway, so I think, I'm not sure. I think it's interesting that they're starting with the home. They have a few industrial contracts. I was surprised that they didn't scale those up more before moving to the home.
It did show them, one of the videos on this page showed um, the robot delivering like a UPS driver would. I thought
Yeah,
that was fascinating. Um, uh, yeah,
yeah,
amazing. I mean, it's just amazing that we're this far this fast. And let's remember that Figure started with this partnership with OpenAI, and then about a year ago, I think it was about a year ago,
yeah,
they said, "See ya."
yeah.
We're gonna do we can do our own model, and that's a thesis I hold, is that everyone's gonna do their own models, and their models, their specialization in the models. In this case, generalization, it becomes a moat to protect the business. And they're like, "Yeah, we're not giving that to OpenAI. We
Yeah.
want our own thing. Our own model."
I also think that they realized that they were going to have to do something different than what OpenAI was doing. Like
Yeah,
like OpenAI is very focused on like the language model, because that's what, and maybe some vision stuff, but mostly like generative stuff, obviously. Um, the vision language action model that they have to build for this is a different beast, and I think they just realized that they weren't getting a lot of value out of the partnership. Um, that was kind of my take there. So
gotcha.
while we've got this website pull up, we should actually, can we appreciate the shoulder real quick? Let's appreciate
Yeah,
the
bring it
shoulder.
up. Bring it up again.
Where Look at this shoulder. So if you think, so that joint is about as complex. I mean, it's probably a little less complex than the
The
hip,
hip flexor. Mhm.
but this is a complex joint. And if you watch this video and others, you can see the way they kind of stretched the skin around it to protect it and hide it, just really elegantly. Like, the shoulder looks very impressive. And if you look at the legs, they did not venture to do that with the legs. Like, the hips, you know, are exposed and moving around quite a bit. Anyways, I was impressed with what they did around the shoulders. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, the hands look great too. It's interesting. Elon Musk, his perspective. I've heard him talk about how the hands are, um, so crucial to getting right, and it seems like Figure has done a great job with this model.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. You see some of the Chinese robots that theoretically you can buy for $13,000. Um, And then you hear Elon Musk talk about Optimus costing $100,000. But if it really replaces a factory worker that you have to, you know, depending on the skill level, maybe you like, let's say you pay a factory worker $50,000 a year, which is really low, but let's just say that's the case. Well, you make it back in year two, like,
For sure.
after 2 years. So very, very interesting. I don't know how they will position it, but okay, let's jump through the other.
Well, I was just to comment quickly if on these Chinese robots, and I can pull up this so we can look at it, but or Asian really. I don't know which ones are Japanese and which ones
Yeah,
are
Japanese, Korean, wherever, but
um.
yes,
So
this is
so
one of them.
Unitree
Unitree.
is they have one of the most impressive action models out there. Like this, I mean, there's this, here it's like it's jumping and it dances. There's a video of it doing a wall flip
Oh, I
that's
saw
just
this.
like just kind of wild. There's some videos of it doing kind of martial arts stuff, and the way it gets up off the ground is just absolutely incredible. This robot is just very, very impressive. But guess what? Look at its hands, or
Yeah, they're just stumps.
the lack thereof. They have not done the end effector yet, and so I a lot of respect for what they're doing on the hardware side, manufacturing. A lot of respect for what they're doing on the action model side. But like people have bought these, they have messed with them, in their homes, and the language model isn't there, the vision models aren't there, the like high level intelligence isn't there, and they don't have hands. They can't do meaningful things yet. Now, Unitree has a new robot that they're working on and I do they do have end effectors and hands on that one, and so they're working on it. But I feel like Elon Musk is his approach to everything is find the bottleneck, right, and solve it. And the
Yeah,
bottleneck to success here is the hand, and so I think that's why he talks a lot about it and the models. But he talks a lot about like the hand because that's going to be the key to making this actually function in the human world.
that's really fascinating. I think he has a leg up in some sense because the um the robot that we call the Tesla car is also learning a world model as every
Yep.
new car drives and more. And I know that BYD and others are following that path as well. But fascinating, fascinating stuff.
The other thing that I think they have a leg up on, as far as the car, is they've been doing the hardware development. Like they have been building purpose-built AI processors for the cars now for several years, and that's impressive hardware. And so they're leveraging those processors, those custom processors. They're leveraging them, and that they're experiencing that for the Optimus robot. Um, I
Which
think
could be a
I
real
was.
it could be a real advantage, right? Like
It
that's
could be
the
the two
idea.
things. The two things that I think have allowed. So, like, if you look at the last 3 to 5 years, there's just been the explosion, the humanoid robots, right? And it makes me laugh if you think, when was Optimus announced? Do you know? It was like 4 years ago.
Oh
I
man, that's a
remember
long time.
when Elon announced Optimus and they had the dancer come out on the stage and do some
Yeah,
funky
yeah, that
robot
was
dance.
like yeah, it was so
Everyone was
good.
like, "What? Like what is going on? What is this?" And here we are like several years later, and it's like, "Oh yeah, no, humanoid robots are going to be a massive thing, right?"
When you say end effector, I've never heard that word before. Which I guess it
Oh,
means a manipulator.
it's a generic term for what's on the end of any robot. So end effectors, like it can be just pincers or it can be suction cups. It can be hands. It also, yeah,
2021. That feels like decades ago, but
yeah,
2021 was when the Tesla. I watched this live, Tesla's AI Day,
yeah,
because they were trying to get a whole bunch of. They were trying to suck in all of the AI. This is when Andre Karpathy was still at Tesla, running up that department, and they were trying to. They couldn't get enough talent, and the AI boom hadn't happened, and so it's not like it was a cool thing in 2021 to be a AI developer or AI anything really. They were trying
right.
to drum up. It was truly like the whole thing was like a hiring pitch by Elon Musk to solve. He even called it the Tesla bot at that point, I believe, or maybe it was called that before that. Yeah, I think it was called that before that. But yeah, that was a what I thought about that event at the time, and I was like, wow, this is like truly. He made a comment in that presentation, if I'm not mistaken, that should be like snippetized, where he said essentially, if you have a problem in engineering, your last tool you should reach for to solve the problem is machine learning. Like the last, like this, like do everything else before that, because the probabilistic solution is really painful, very difficult, extremely costly. Now it's like the first tool thing. I mean, I never go to code first. I immediately go to
Yeah, that's
some kind
fascinating.
of AI agent. But at that time, trying to solve for reliability in a stochastic, uh, randomized kind of system, he just was like, this is really hard. So if you're really smart, come work for us, because this is really hard engineering. Now everyone's doing it. It's fantastic.
I wonder if it was just like before the scaling laws were understood. I wonder if they
Yeah,
right, because if you, it's like before there was a good understanding that all you just scale compute, you scale, training time, you scale data sets, and you can get or you can get the probabilistic models to be somewhat reliable, right? Somewhat predictable. When I think about what has caused the humanoid robot boom over the last 2 to 3 years, I think there are two primary things. And one of them is the AI boom, obviously. Like the idea, the scaling laws, the idea that if we get enough data, if we get enough compute, if we train on, at a big enough cluster for long enough, we get good output. And if you apply that to the controls and the high level decisions of a humanoid robot, you get some really incredible, mimicking of humans, some really incredible control. And then the other one is on the hardware side, is just the actual ICs, the actual chips, the GPUs. Like that has advanced. Purpose built chips have advanced
yep.
to a place where you can run these models, do inference on the form factor that will be or that is a humanoid robot. And so those two things happening, it coinciding with each other over the last 3 to 5 years, I think is what has laid the groundwork for this explosion of like everyone realizes now it's possible. Now it's possible to do embodied AI and release it into the world. Pretty fascinating.
Fascinating. Hat tip Haiku 4.5. Claude just announced that today. Really fast. Anyway, it's saying scaling laws for neural language models by Hoffman et al. From DeepMind was March 2022. So yes, before AI Day in 2021. So I think you're right on. Maybe that was part of his calculus, which was like, this is really. And also one of the challenges with hardware, like hardware is hard. That's what you say, right?
Yeah.
Hardware is hard. One of the challenges is they have to release a certain model of GPU, interconnects, sensors. They release in the car, and like that's kind of set. Like you don't get to upgrade that. It's just like the geometry of the car is set, the focus, the cameras, all like that. You've just locked into that, and to the degree that you're successful at shipping cars like that, the upgrade cycle just is naturally slowed down. And so I think part of what they were, and I think continue to struggle with, is the fact that, hey, this is how much interconnect bandwidth I have. This is how much compute I have on this system. It's not like I get to upgrade it. You have to work within those constraints. And as fast as things are working, I think that's, hats off to those engineers working in that kind of environment. It seems really challenging to me.
The autopilot for Tesla is another great example of, I just think it's fascinating. Karpathy or Andre Karpathy, Karpathy. I can't say his last name. He talks about how the transition in the autopilot went from, like basically a bunch of code, right? And how the AI has just eaten it over time. And now, it's a massive model and there's actually very limited, hard coded things in there, right? And I just think it's fascinating that like that's the same with these, these humanoid robots, where like there's a model that's running that's controlling all of the main motions, and then the amount of actual like classical controls that are doing, servo control is very minimal compared to what the model is doing, which is fascinating.
I mean, that leads you. I can see why. I mean, that leads you to a kind of like conclusion. It guides you towards this conclusion that like you can have one model that just one mega model that does everything, and I can see why people would come to that conclusion with that, that kind of data set. I don't believe it, but I can see where the trajectory goes. What were
Yeah.
you going to say about this Boston Dynamics?
Well, I
Video?
just wanted to show they just released a whole video on their hand. And it's
Oh,
fascinating
I have
because
not seen this.
the hand is very
Oh,
it's
like
it's
the
three fingers.
claw.
Yeah, it's like exactly. I'm trying to find. I'll have to find a good. Anyways, it's like three fingers. It's massive. It's like not impressive compared to, some of these other end effectors or hands that we're talking about. But they were like, we were going for the minimal thing that would work, and then as we learn about manipulating this thing, we're going to go into something more sophisticated. So I just thought that was interesting. These guys are legends in the robotics industry. I feel like they've gotten caught a little bit off guard, a little bit resting on their laurels with Figure and some other companies, kind of leading the way here. The other examples of end effectors you can
This is with
see.
the tendons, right? The
Well,
tendons
this
that
is
wear
this
out that
has
they were
this is
trying.
partially tendons. There's servos and tendons. Yep.
Uh huh.
And then the last one was this one, and this
Yes,
was
I saw this one recently. They're saying it's like solved it. They solved the wear and tear thing.
yeah. I don't know what that means. But it reminds me of something I learned or I realized in school. I was sitting in like material science class or something. I distinctly remember this moment where I realized all interesting things come out of material science. And I was like, well, I don't want to do material science, so I guess I will do the less interesting things. Anyways, this is it like whatever they're talking about here is not wearing out tendons is almost certainly a material science thing. Some combination of materials in the tendons and in what they rub on and how they rub to solve wearing out tendons. Anyways, so that was an interesting example of.
Look at all of those. But like, what fascinated me about this when I saw this is look at how many tendons. Like you, I think like all of this stuff does kind of for me generate a sense of awe for the human body. Like they've got like 100 different tendons and like we're able to do all this stuff with our hands and just relatively like uh, durably, like like 100 years durable. And anyway, they've got. I mean, I don't. We don't. I don't believe we have that many tendons. I in our like they're showing like there's got to be that cluster has got to be like 50 or 100 different tendons.
Yeah,
Maybe there's
I'm.
not many in the humans. I don't know my biology, but
Yeah,
fascinating.
it gives you a lot of appreciation for the human body, that's for sure. And Musk was talking about that in one of his interviews. He's like, he was like, I have a lot of appreciation for the human hand after having worked on trying to duplicate it. So
I remember him talking about like the pinky finger. He was like, "You think the pinky finger doesn't matter, and then you actually get into
yeah,
like the range of motion, what it can do, and it's like actually super important." I was like,
yeah.
"Wow, I would have never guessed."
So here's part of a discussion, or here's a discussion that I'm interested in your thoughts on, and that
Uh,
is of the effect of embodied AI on the economy. And we could talk. I don't know if we have time. We could talk about like the social effects. We could talk about the economic effects. We could talk about security and privacy. All these things. Um, on the economic side, what I think embodied AI represents is the cost of labor significantly declining, right? The cost of labor and in theory it approaches zero, like very close to zero, because now you build one thing and it can work for several years for the cost of electricity. and some amount of maintenance or whatever. Anyways, in
Yeah,
contrast to like a human being that needs a lot to sustain itself. So what does it do to the economy? There's an optimist view, there's a pessimist view. It's probably somewhere in the middle. What are your thoughts?
you know what? I have not studied this. I remember reading an article, a futurist article, many years ago, actually, where someone tried to like tease this apart, and I cannot remember the core thesis. So I guess maybe um, it wasn't as impactful on me, but I do remember reading it. It makes me wonder about like the way I okay, I'm gonna be off the cuff here because and then I'd like to hear you because I know you've thought about this more, but like off the cuff, I feel like it's just leverage. And I don't mean to minimize it, but it's just leverage. And I think it brings into sharp relief like other things in life that are leverage. I feel like AI for me, I use it, I've used it probably daily for the last, 18 months or something. I I think that you just get more leverage out of your inputs. And it seems like now maybe it does shift to like almost like the trains where you've got like a few who control the masses. That feels like monopoly territory, makes people uncomfortable because then it just becomes like who owns the most bots wins because they have the most leverage.
Mm-hmm.
That it does seem to be like the case that at least in some of these videos I've watched in the Ukraine Russia war, that like he who owns the most drones wins. Like like it seems like that is a corollary there. So I don't know. Um, I know if you're searching for like ease, if you can have your robot do a bunch of things for you, it buys you more time. Maybe that's a kind of leverage. Maybe that's the only like truly scarce resource is time, and in that situation, I'm not sure. Anyway, so those are some random thoughts. Tell me your thoughts. I want to hear yours.
To be honest, I haven't thought about this like overly deeply. But I think there's like some obvious things, right? That um, I think the pessimist would say that these types of machines are going to take a bunch of human jobs, and humans are going to be out of work, and that's going to cause problems. And that's true. I think one of the questions is like what the transition looks like. If it happens in the course of like a decade, or if it happens in the course of like a century, like that will affect that transition time. Um, the faster it is, the more pain it will cause.
100%. Then you get the Luddites, right? I think the transition time is going to be completely economically driven. What I mean is the delta between what a human costs and what a robot costs to purchase and maintain, like the bigger that delta, the faster it's going to go, and the closer that delta, the slower it's going to go. So
Right.
maybe there's some you know I guess one could make the argument that there should be some regulation involved to like, hey, let's not sell these robots for so little that it goes so fast, and all of the superstructures, the organizations, everything that's built up around humans is devastated in a blink of an eye. Gives us time to transition. I that I could be persuaded by that argument, but there's another part of me that is just like, you know what? The more things change, the more they seem the same. There's nothing new under the sun. That whole trope. I feel like there is like at the end of the day, humans are loath to change. Because of that, systems move slowly, and a change, even I remember when the internet kind of blew up, and the telecom industry in particular just was like, oh, this is amazing, we're gonna as they built all this fiber, and it took a lot of time, it took a lot of build out. I mean, you have to actually like dig up land and lay pipes and get it to every single house or every single apartment building or whatever. And there's a lot of capital involved. But once you do that, boy, there's a lot of leverage. Now, it took longer to materialize. Everyone was complaining for years about dark fiber. It's all this fiber we lay down in our the halcyon days of like extravagance. But now we're like, oh yeah, this really helps. It's really nice to have fiber everywhere. Maybe there's something similar like that where I don't know, where there's a big capital expenditure, but it needs to go slowly then fast. It's fascinating to me from a manufacturing perspective. A lot of manufacturing, as I understand it, is done by. There's just a lot of people involved at every stage, and maybe the solution is these generalist robots, these humanoid robots that can replace those people. Maybe that is a solution. But when I see pictures of like ultra optimized factories, I don't see them as like humanoid robots, and maybe they will. And maybe it's better to buy a humanoid robot than like but I see a lot of specialized robots, these big 5-axis, monstrosities. And I those seem like, why wouldn't you do the specialized thing? If you have a specialized, it makes sense to be specialized. Why would you have like a down level generalist robot when you could have a specialized one that's faster, better, cheaper to run, operate, whatever? One of the questions I do have along these lines is charging times. These humanoid robots, like, there's a lot of power involved in moving them, and there's a lot of power in executing the inference needed to process the world. You've got to push through a ton of tokens. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of heat. There's a lot of GPU. Like, how long can they run? Like, can they run 4 hours? Like, I don't know. 4 hours would probably be good enough, but I don't think they're running all day without charging.
No,
especially when that figure one shows up and it's inductive charging through the heel is what it looked like.
That could be for on station though, because it also sits down in a stand. I don't know. I wonder if when it sits in the stand, if it charges, with contacts for high rate of charge. But then inductive in the heel for like if you're on station in front of some machine or on station, in front of the dishes, doing dishes or something.
Oh, interesting.
But
okay.
I don't know that. The power thing, in the early days, it'll probably just be like, you actually have to buy 2 robots to replace one full shift of one human or something. But that's just like shrug, like part of the math, part of the, it's like, the power density is going to of energy storage is going to continue to go up, and the efficiency is going to continue to increase for all of this stuff. So
that I'm worrying about something that long term you think is just like negligible.
I don't think it's going to be a big deal. So I think that here's something that I was thinking about today that is worth considering. You know how with LLMs, you've pointed this out on a few occasions. With LLMs, one of the unique things about the technology is it's been deployed to the consumer first. And it's been leveraged by the consumer first, as opposed to other technologies that have often been deployed to and leveraged by government and corporation first, or industry. When I see figures shifting to the home, I think that's interesting. I wonder if a similar thing might happen where, or when I see these, Asian robots being sold for 12, 15K, I wonder if that same thing will happen. And what's interesting about that is the same effects that come from me having access to these powerful models and the leverage that I get from that to build something. I wonder if I will have access to physical AI and be able to leverage that in ways that are interesting. The most obvious one for me is I'm a fan of manufacturing. I want more manufacturing to happen. Let's say that I am in-house manufacturing like frames, picture frames. I don't know what it is, right? Could I go buy a humanoid robot for 15K and scale my business manufacturing these frames by using that leverage. So I wonder, I wonder if we're going to see a similar thing in the embodied AI that we're currently seeing with the LLMs, in terms of this leverage is broadly available to the consumer and the us low level plebes, and industry and government is going to be slower to adopt it. Um, I think it's possible. I think it's possible that here within 5-10 years that I will be able to invest $15,000-$30,000 to a humanoid robot that will do something useful for a business. I think that's very possible.
I mean, if that materializes, then what does that mean? It means the constraint becomes electricity and materials, right? Um, so whoever has the biggest solar farm, because right, like, is that what it comes down to, right? Like for a small business, I like small business. That's where I just feel there's better outcomes when there's lots of successful small businesses. So if
So,
you
but
have a small bit,
when you say that, I think like I don't need that much power to run 10 robots for a
no,
small
but I'm just
business.
saying, like, I don't think you do either. Like, what? Yeah, you don't. If your inputs are electricity, and that can be zero, and that can be zero today. Like for LLMs, it certainly can. Like, I could set up a solar farm, run my efficient home that I don't have, but if I had one, I could run it all off on electricity. That is a known quantity. You have zero input. I guess there's a question about repairs. I mean, I'm up here in farmland in Wyoming, and all of the farmers I talk to, it's a love hate relationship with John Deere, and they love it because there's some really cool equipment, large equipment. I'm talking combines, I'm talking harvesters, like all kinds of stuff. But they hate it because John Deere makes all their. Not only do the things cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars even. So that's a big outlay, but they break down because it's heavy equipment. They break down, and then John Deere forces you to pay through the nose for repairs because they have all this, like, you have to use our qualified parts to warranty and all this stuff. And they hate John Deere for this reason because they can't fix them themselves. When your humanoid robot that your business depends on breaks down, what's your, like, I am a big fan of the right to repair movement, but like, what are your options? Are you going to order a cycloid gear, whatever it's called? I don't know. I have I do wonder about that. How does that work? What's the ongoing cost of maintenance for one of these things? Or is it like more solid state than I give it credit? And it just, like, it is going to last 20 years. I mean, without basically anything. I don't know. I think there's another. Do you have any thoughts on that idea? Like the maintenance of these robots?
I don't know what the maintenance is going to look like. My guess is it's going to improve over time. My guess is these things will be hard to repair. They're very dense, very complex. Maybe in time, like 30, 40, 50 years, standards and things start to emerge where repairability, kind of increases, or home maintenance kind of is more of a possibility. But yeah, who knows? I mean, my guess is that these things will be fairly reliable and have fairly long lives outside of batteries. Batteries always suck. But maintenance is just a fact of any machine. So yes, there will be some amount of maintenance required. I think it's gonna be pretty limited, though. I just think of, like, I don't know. Think of, it's a bunch of solid state electronics with a few servos, and all of the servos are like nice brushless motors. There's not much to go out there but bearings, and bearings aren't going to go out. And then, like, the harmonic drives and the cycloidal drives are like pretty freaking reliable. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. The hands are super intricate. They'll probably break. Like, maybe the rest of it's fine. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
it falls over and breaks its hand, and you're like, oh, $5,000 hand. Shoot.
Yeah, probably.
Um. Okay, let's talk. So I don't really like the privacy angle. I don't know. I'm a believer in not having these things phone home. Probably skewed by iRobot, but um,
But
I don't know.
they're
I guess
going to. Period.
because
Like
of updates. Is that what you're saying?
oh
Just
yeah,
because
and because
the data
they
is
need
so
the data.
valuable.
Yeah, they need the data. So there's no way they're going to sell it to you and say, "Oh, you could optionally not upload data." Like the data is the lifeline. So they're going to phone home.
That's sad. So well, then basically privacy's gone. Okay, so leaving that a sad story.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else to say on that.
Maybe
if we were
in
already
time.
convinced that privacy was gone, now we are completely convinced that privacy.
Yeah, privacy is gone. But like maybe in time, because inference is running locally. I think in large part on these machines, it needs to, especially for locomotion.
Latency's too, yeah.
Right, and so inference isn't the problem. So maybe in time, when their data set is large enough, maybe there's like an option for privacy, but definitely not in the early days. Yeah, no way.
Okay, so I have a question. I have a question for you, and this is totally a social question. So, the story of the looms and the Luddites, right? They like. I think it
I
was looms.
just read that story in How to
Okay,
Fly a Horse.
Oh, How to Fly the Horse is the best book ever. It's one of
Yeah.
top 5 books. It's so good. Tell for those who haven't heard about it, give us the summary of that.
Put me on the spot. I mean, there's a gentleman who's inventing the loom, the automatic loom, and the Luddites, who are weavers, are scared, and so they go over and they try to destroy it. Yeah. And I think in the story they failed. Is that right? I'm pretty sure they failed. Like he had it locked
long
up.
Term. I think they did some damage to his property for sure. Like there was damage involved. They may have not gotten into the loom.
People died and stuff, but I don't think they actually destroyed the machine. Anyways, the ironic thing about the whole exchange is these guys were afraid of technology taking their job, while simultaneously leveraging a bunch of technology to do their job.
Yeah.
And in the end, like a bunch of weavers benefited from the existence of the automatic loom. And anyway, but the Luddites were terrified, and so they tried to destroy it.
Violent outcome. People died.
People died. Yeah.
I think that's as a cautionary tale, and there's 2 ways. I mean, I will just tell you, my profession, all my career has been as a software engineer in one form or another, doing startups or, CTO, whatever. And this time last year, I was looking at the technology and the trajectory of things, and I'm like, my job, I'm host. Like, I was like, I'm done. I gotta retool. I've got to figure out how to, but as time has gone on, it really has been a discovery for me. Now I'm like, I would never go back to handcrafted code personally, because I am able to get so much more output. Like I'm able to create more and better things so much faster that it's like, it seems crazy. On the flip side, I have 2.5 decades of exposure there, and so like if the LLM, I'm pretty forgiving of the LLM for when it goes south, because I'm like, I know how to do this, like I can fix it, but not always. Anyway, but there was a time where I was like, oh, this is bad. Like, and I had to kind of like, drink bitter cup.
Isn't that still true to some degree? Like, so your industry, software development, is being disrupted. There are people who are not being hired because of this technology. There are people who have been fired because of this technology, right? In the same way, it's funny because y'all are used to being at the top of the pyramid, right? Whereas
now
like
we're getting our just desserts.
yeah, well, like I don't know, the concierge and like the gal down there at the fast food store, like who's gonna get sidelined by embodied AI, by these humanoid robots. I mean, it seems like the lower level jobs are the ones that get automated away most often, right? But here we're in this time where like software developers are getting hammered because of this technology. So I guess so. Finish your thought. How do you feel about embodied AI removing a bunch of jobs when like you're in this position of AI directly competing for
So
your
here's what here
job?
I have felt that like my conclusion, and it did not take me very long to come to the conclusion that I just needed to move up the stack. So
Yeah.
like that like I just need to move up the hierarchy, and that like the as much as I love the material of code and software engineering, um, that is going to be done by a bunch of robots or agents, whatever you want to call them. And so I need to develop the capacity. And I was already trajectory wise, like CTO, CEO, is already moving up the stack just because what I realized is that um, business outcomes and business, the lever of business precludes good software. So like people can say you can have the best engineers, that's good, but if your business is broken, you're never going to get a good out. So in the service of like creating good software and generating a product that's like useful to the world, you sure as heck better have your business together, because if you don't, it's necessary to have good software, but it's insufficient for success. You have to have all these things, and that's what makes a business so hard. You have to line up everything. But back to the social media. So the Luddites. This is this is the thread I want to pull on. So the Luddites get violent on these things. I saw this robot. It's a I think it was DoorDash, maybe it was Uber Eats. I don't know, but they created this robot. It looks like an R2D2 unit. It's square. It's ugly. It's got googly eyes on it. Did you see this? Okay, it's going down, and the whole idea is to solve the last mile problem. That you're
Yep.
going to put some. It's going to go to some food factory, get the food, load it up, and then it's going to go to a door, ding dong, and then you're going to like authenticate or something, and and it's going to open up and piping hot.
These things are real, by the way. They're going around.
Here's
People
my
are. This is
question.
happening.
I believe they are real. I believe they are real. But if they start like it was a painful and continues to be a challenging environment for me to provide for my family when everything's like in high flux. And I can't even imagine what it might be like for someone in, let's say, a lower paying job where the upside is much more limited, and they feel like they're just getting hollowed out. And I think these robots get acted upon violently. I think you see one of these robots going down the place, and someone takes a baseball bat and doesn't care that they're destroying $30,000 to $100,000 worth of technology. They're just going to put a bullet hole, or like that's the most violent. Put a shotgun hole through this thing, like a robot, and say, "You took away my job. I don't like you." And that I feel like a lot of these um, in public, like all of these, think about Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever, all these like futuristic movies, you always have these robots interspersed with the humans. Like you're walking down the street and there's robots and there's humans, and humanoid robots and non-humanoid robots, and but they're all like intermingled. Well, that depends on this idea that there's this like trust. But I think I see some of these memes where a guy's they're kicking the robot to like see if it can balance or recover its balance, right? And then the meme is like, for our robot overlords, I was not mean to any robot, like don't hurt
right.
me.
Right.
I What do you think happens in that scenario, especially as the transition is likely to be robot? I mean, it's likely to be challenging. Notwithstanding, like I do believe that human systems take a long time to evolve and shape and are slow. But this feels like it feels implacable to me, because let's just say 2 years from now, like the figure guy that was talking about, 2 years from now, you've got like a capable humanoid robot. What? It feels like that is very disruptive. even if it's $500,000, like in certain scenarios, it'd be worth it to amortize that over paying an employee. And especially as like healthcare and all these taxes that a business needs to pay, it's like, no, I'd much rather have a robot. That's like way simpler for me to manage and deal with. And I don't have to deal with all kinds of things. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts about the social aspect?
I mean, I think you're right. I think that I think it's likely to go at a fast enough speed that it's going to cause economic turmoil, struggles. That's like, I don't think this is going to happen overnight. Like, there's going to be transition, but the transitions is going to be painful for a certain set of job holders, and they will react to that. Yeah. I mean, will it get like physically violent between humans and robots? Inevitably, at some level, yes. Like, will that be like the norm? Like people running around and just like shooting robots because they don't want the robots around? And I mean, maybe, and then those people will go to jail or something because
For
the robots
property
happen to have a
damage, I
lot
don't
of
trespassing.
cameras,
I
and it's going to be really
don't.
easy to identify these people. So, like, I don't know. But uh there, yeah, like the transition is going to be painful. I don't think there's a way to make the transition that isn't painful. um I think what if what would what's an interesting thought experiment is to think about what happens after the transition. I'm not sure exactly, but like what happens when the cost of labor is zero? What happens when the cost of goods is really, really low? What happens when, all humans have transitioned to lifestyles and employment that isn't, labor intensive, which a lot of, a good chunk of um, modern society has already, um, in the United States, anyways. But what happens when that goes further? Um, I don't know. If society doesn't unwind, maybe you do get, because it could just unwind society. Maybe you do get, the Star Trek utopia eventually. But where like, but yeah, but I don't know what is like, um, because in Star Trek, famously, right? I don't think on Earth there's any sense of currency. I don't think everyone just and so it's like, man, you know what do you get value out of? Like, I don't know what happens in that society. But if that society comes around and I'm part of it, I want to be part of the explorers, not stuck on Earth doing nothing. Take me to Mars. I don't know.
Do you remember that part? There's a part in Fahrenheit 451, speaking of dystopias, where basically they have their eyes are covered, everything's screens. Their ears, they have these shells in their ears and their eyes, and they literally are spending their entire life visually and stimulated by what is synthetic. And maybe that is a really, I don't know. I am even though I am a techno optimist, I really do believe that these tools can be a really valuable addition. And I do want a humanoid robot to do the laundry and to make my meals and to like. There's a whole bunch of things that I want him to go out and pick the weeds in the garden. Like I'm for all of those things. Um, I don't know what cost it comes at from a pure capital, from a invasive, privacy perspective. I don't know, but maybe
You
this
know
is
what?
a good.
Oh, we were talking about what uh Oaks, Dallin Oaks said about families being producers instead of consumers.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to me. I think it's important to be a producer and not a consumer. And I uh I spent a bunch of hours the last few days making jam with my daughters because they're going to sell jam at the garage sale, and I think that's a good thing. Eventually some robot could make jam for us, but like there's like some positive things happening for society when you are a producer of physical things. And
Maybe it could it give life to the cottage industries again? Like you go to a third world country and there are all these like homes are producing stuff like cashews. I remember in Brazil when I was there on my mission that I go visit a home and they've got all these cashews that need to be shelled. And literally they have a knife and they're scraping off the thin shell like a peanut shell. They're scraping that off by hand, every single one. And then they'll put it in, they weigh it in a bucket and they hand it back to the factory. And like every house had their, and they got paid so much. It was a way for them to make industry. Anyway, I wonder if with humanoid robots and you can start building stuff, you're like, maybe there's a Cambrian explosion of all this stuff that you could build and do that didn't make sense before, but now at just the cost of electricity, it makes sense and it's fine. It's like, yeah, I mean,
you mean, wait, hold on. Are you saying that now because humanoid robots are doing my laundry, I get to go garden? Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure I'm
that's
tracking.
not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm
Oh,
saying,
because that doesn't make sense to me.
ahead.
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah,
Help
I
me
suppose that
understand.
could happen, but what I was trying to say is that look, if I had a humanoid robot and I could just tell it to do things around the yard, maybe I could tell it to start growing peppers, and like maybe I could start, and these are things I wouldn't have time to do right now, but you know, if all of a sudden I've got all this time that I can, and the robot, as long as it's charged, or maybe you have three of them and they shift because of their charging regimen or whatever, you can have this stuff going on all the time. Then all of a sudden you're like, well, I've done every chore that could conceivably be done. The toilet cannot get any cleaner. Maybe at that point you're like, well, maybe I could use this to build something. And you're like, well, could I use it to build pottery? Could I use it to make a harp? Could I use it to, build something from a manufacturing perspective, do some welding, as a general purpose instrument? Then all of a sudden you're like, well, I want, and then everyone becomes like, Tony Stark, Iron Man, where he's just doing all this stuff, trying to build up something they're interested in. Maybe that's a really positive, and it's like, you don't need to build it for certainly if you want like massive scale, certainly a tuned manufacturing line. But if you're just building something for yourself or for you and a couple friends, it's like, why not? I mean, you're just at the cost of electricity and you're like, here, I'm going to give you this kit, Fox, and go build this plane. I'm going to do a few things different, make it my own. It's going to be super custom. And then I sell the plane. Like, you could do that now. And even though it's slow, it's like at the cost of electricity and materials. And the next thing you know, you've got that's what I mean by a cottage industry. Everyone's just like ultra custom type stuff instead of this like manufactured stamp consistency type thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it gets back to what I was saying earlier about like how I wonder if it will do the bottom up thing that like LLMs are doing, where consumers can leverage these things at a very intimate level to produce, to manufacture, to do things, to make things. I don't know. That would be cool.
What an amazing time. I continue to be optimistic. There's real concerns, and we'll just have to negotiate them the best we can. I don't know. Meanwhile, back to work.
That's right. All right. We'll see you next week.
Okay. I will. Oh, you know what? There's one other thing I want to say about this. Sorry. I believe in the necessity of work. What I mean by that is, and having recently experienced a long period of unemployment due to LLMs, and by long I mean almost a year of stress associated with this whole high flex industry. I can tell you that it is a physical, emotional, spiritual necessity to work. It is like it's like built in. And so I think if we go this route where a lot of work can be done by these humanoid robots, one thing's for certain is that people who just go after this kind of focus on ease and consumption and just like diverting themselves with entertainment or games or whatever, I think that's a dead end for society. I think that's going to create a lot of problems for people. Where now my hope is that everyone levels up and is like, okay, well, now I have all these tools at my disposal. What wonderful thing what big problem can I solve in the world? And then they use that lever. But if they go the route of like, well, I'm just going to sit on my duff and drink lemonade on a beach somewhere, I don't think that's going to work well. I don't think it meets the needs of humanity. That's that like there's a religious perspective there's a spiritual perspective, there's like an emotional perspective, but it's also it is also my lived experience that it sucks not to be working. And okay, maybe it's like what's that movie in the Tesseract where everyone goes back to farming and on the earth, what's it in Interstellar, like maybe it's like everyone goes back to farming, not because they need to, but because it's like healthy and people like it, and there's this movement internally on homesteading. Maybe that's an outcome where people understand that it we come to the global realization that like social media is bad for humans, like we did about smoking and stuff like that.
Your optimism is inspiring.
I'm just like, if we're gonna imagine, we might as well imagine something good, Sam. Like, we're gonna make stuff up.
Did you see the tweets from Sam OpenAI Altman? Yeah, he
follow him.
He put out the post about how they're opening up. Like they figured out more on the safety, and they're opening up ChatGPT, and they're probably going to segregate adult kind of usage versus youth usage. Did you see that one?
I did.
Okay, a bunch of like pushback of like, no thanks for destroying society, because now these tools are going to be even more addictive to adults. A similar pushback that Elon Musk got for the companions stuff that they released on Grok, right? Anyways, and then I mean, I'm all for dreaming, but like it sure feels like AI is coming. I posted something the other day about how it looks like social media usage is dropping, particularly with the younger generations. Yeah. And you pointed out that you hope that it wasn't just like being replaced with AI usage. Yeah. Right, which is 100% like a likely outcome. And it seems to me that it's extremely easy. And I know this from experience. It's extremely easy to fall into the place of ease and consumption. Like I think of my last 5-7 years of trying to do some homesteading stuff, the gardening, the chickens, the hogs, like all of these things, canning, like fermentation, sourdough. We've done all of these things. And I can tell you that there are many times when it takes a lot of like intentionality to choose to do those things when you could just go freaking buy it off of Amazon for cheaper, so much cheaper, or go to Walmart or whatever it is, right? And so
harder but better, Sam. Harder but better.
I'm strong. There. We're doing the harder but better. But I'm just saying that like it is like if there are robots doing a bunch of the lame things, the hard things in life, and I have infinite entertainment with AI models that are designed to take away, to entertain me in the perfect ways, that side of things gets me a little bit nervous. So I appreciate your optimism, man. We'll see what happens.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to, what's that saying? It's like, it's hard to predict anything, especially the future, or something like so. Yeah. We'll just keep at it. I think it's fascinating technology, and it's a wonderful time in many ways. And most technology gets used for good and bad, and that
Yeah,
really
for
comes
sure.
back to the family, right? Which is something if the family is instilling values in the rising generation, that it's good to sacrifice, it's good to do hard things, it's good to stress yourself positively, it's good to work hard and be honest, and like these kinds of values that we take for granted in at least in America. um, then I think the tools can be used for good and not ill. But if those values, anyway, that's the bigger lever. But anyway, we can talk about that another day. Today it was the technology focused. Welcome. We're so glad that we just like to thank our mom, who's the only one watching this video.
She's not even gonna watch
Thanks
it.
a lot. Thanks. She turned it off after the first thing. Thank you. Let's thank the AI bots that have watched and processed this podcast, because that's it. That's watched it. It's the up and coming world's greatest podcast, build different, and soon to be renamed hard. Do the hard thing and suck it up. Anyway, see you later.
I like it. We'll see you next week.
All right, bye.